presenting the stages in which Sufism has entered the country, in addition to the factors that have contributed to the widespread and the dissemination of Sufi teaching and Sufism in Sudan. Just here I'd like to give the time for speaking about the earliest Turuq that entered the Sudan. The Shazali and the Qadiriya tariqas were the first to enter Sudan and were prevailing during the French Sultanate. Both tariqas were represented in Sudan by a number of independent branches, each with its distinctive sanad and silsila, and with little connection to the other. That is the view of Dr. Ali Saleh Karrar in his thesis, The Sufi Brotherhood in Sudan, 1992, page 36. The oldest and most widespread of the Turuq is the Qadiriya, founded by my master Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani in the 12th century and introduced into Sudan in the 16th century. However, historians here mark the time in which the Tariqa Qadiriya teaching had entered Sudan, and they had stated that it is in the year 1577. And the entering of and the arrival of the Qadiriya teaching, by the way, into Sudan, mainly Fonj Sultanate, it had been attributed to the effort that had been led by my master Sheikh Tajuddin al-Bukhari, the Khalifa of my master Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, the founder of the Tariqa itself. So Sheikh Tajuddin al-Bukhari from Hijaz came to Sudan as an invitation of a Sudanese merchant. Much more details will be presented shortly after this introduction. The Qadiriya was the most influential than the Shazaliya, and by the way, as I say it, the spirit of the Qadiriya teaching itself, by the way, it come to be goes with the mood of the Sudanese African. So in such a way, the Qadiriya had found the atmosphere so encourageable in terms of the spirit of the African themselves. That is, the nature of the Qadiri teaching, by the way, suit the African soil. And in that way, in Sudanese in particular. So because of this, we find that the Qadiriya had taken the lion's share in the widespread in Sudan. That is because of its very nature of going on with the mood of the Sudanese as an African that have inherited many elements of the African tradition and customs. That is just a point should be said here. To support this view, by the way, just here we would like to quote Professor Yusuf Fadl Hassan, the notable Sudanese historian, when he said, the Qadiriya is interested in the personal relationship between the disciple and God, and is concentrating on esoteric sciences rather than the Sharia, a fact that made it easy for non-Muslims to join it. The Qadiriya in Sinnar was characterized by giving legitimacy to many pre-Islamic practices, thus making it accessible to illiterate peasants and nomads. The Qadiriya Tariqa, since its inception in the Sudan, dominated the scene almost exclusively until the Turco-Egyptian invasion of the Sudan. So the arrival of Sheikh Tajuddin al-Bukhari with the Qadiri Sanad into Sudan had been narrated and had been written in many Sudanese sources. Just here I would like to show to some parts of these writings about the arrival of Sheikh Tajuddin. While in pilgrimage in Mecca, Tajuddin was invited in about 1577 by Dawood ibn Abd Jalil, a Sudanese merchant from Arbaji, to visit the Fon kingdom. There, he stayed for 7 years, during which he initiated a number of prominent Sudanese into the Qadiriya order. They included his successor Muhammad al-Hamim ibn Abd al-Sadiq, Barneg al-Darir Hijaz ibn Ma'in, the founder of Arbaji and its mosque, Sha'ad-Din Wad-Tiwam, the ancestor of the Shukriya, and Sheikh Ajib leader, and the Abdullahi chief. While in the Sudan, Tajuddin approached and contacted with the Shah Abdullah ibn Dhafal al-Araki, a leader who studied under the scholar Abdurrahman with Jabir, to join his order. But Abdullah declined, arguing that he would restrict himself to religious learning. But when he saw the popularity of and the social status attained by the disciples of Tajuddin among the Funjan Arabs, he changed his mind and went to Mecca, finding Tajuddin passed away. He agreed to be initiated by his successor. So, the most significant and important to Sudanese, to them, the efforts of the widespread of the Qadiri teaching in Sudan in this earliest time, I mean here, the Fon Sultanate time, were two. That is Sheikh Muhammad al-Hamim Abd al-Sadiq and Sheikh Barneg al-Darir. And by the way, different narration have been said about their initiation into the Qadiriya. And mostly this narration have been narrated by the notable Sudanese historian Muhammad Nur al-Dayfallah in his renowned book Al-Tabaqat. So just he would like to display and to present part of the narration on the earliest Sudanese that have been initiated by Sheikh Tajuddin al-Bukhari. People came to Tajuddin to be initiated into the Sufi path. He hid some rams in a storeroom and said to the people, I am going to initiate and guide you and slaughter you. Then you will die in the faith. Thereupon the people dispersed except Sheikh Muhammad al-Hamim and Sheikh Barneg. Sheikh Muhammad al-Hamim at that time was very young, wearing a shirt. He removed it, performed his ablutions and prayed 2 rak'ahs. The sheikh took him inside the storeroom, initiated him and slaughtered one of the rams, and the blood flowed from the storeroom. The people thought that he had slaughtered him. Then came Barneg, who was very old. He said, I am a fool who has served his days. I prefer to join my Lord. So he performed ablutions, prayed 2 rak'ahs, and went in. He initiated him and slaughtered another ram, and the blood flowed toward the people. He said to them, Come. Al-Bukhari addressed the outside audience, said, Come, don't be envious, annoyed or stringy. They refused, and after that the two came. The two he refers to Al-Hamim and Barneg came out safe and sound. Such was the narration of Spencer Birmingham in his notable book Islam in Sudan. The very same story of the initiation had also been narrated in a dramatic scene by Dr. Khalid al-Mubarak in his study set in the Sudan from pre-Islamic ritual and Islamic Sufi ritual until modern drama, and a national theater, a paper published in 1995, when he said, people flocked to him, asking to be initiated as Sufis. He forthwith erected a closet wherein he hid some rams. He then declared, I initiate, show the way, and slay. Those who die do so as good believers. Most people were scared. They dispersed. Muhammad, son of Abdul Sadiq, was one of those who stayed. He was young. He took off his shirt, performed his ablutions, and prayed 2 rak'ahs. The sheikh led him inside and killed one of the rams. Blood trickled out, and people saw that it was Muhammad's. Al-Mubarak continued to say, then came Sheikh Bannaga, who was very old. He said, I am a bull who has served his days. I prefer to join my Lord. So he performed ablutions, prayed 2 rak'ahs, and went in. He initiated him and slaughtered another ram, and the blood flowed toward the people. He said to them, come. Then Sheikh Bannaga, who was an old, stepped forward. He said, I am an old ox who has had his fair share of life. I have chosen to meet my God. He likewise prayed 2 rak'ahs before entering. Another ram was slain inside the blood. Another ram was slain inside and blood poured out for the people to see. The Sheikh then addressed the people saying, come on in. Stop envying one another. Stop being mothers. Nobody came forward. Then the 2 men emerged sounded safe. The Sheikh told each one of them to eat his ram's meat, inside which he had hid a secret. He gave his prophecy, said, these 2, pointing to Al-Hamim and Bannaga, will lead the land to prosperity. The initiation rites themselves are highly dramatic. Went Al-Mubarak to add, the Sheikh asks his disciple to sit opposite him, knees touching knees, then repeats words and mimes hand movements. The ceremony ends with him drinking water blessed by the Sheikh. He then wears the colorful Sufi costume. It is not surprising that the Qadiriya is the most widely spread Sufi orders among Muslim Sudanese until now. That is because of its earliest initiation by Al-Bahari, who spread the teaching of my master Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani at that time during the Foreign Sultanate. In another narration, he just would like to see another view from Khadija Karrar in her study aspects of Sufism in Sudan and Publicis 1975, when she stated, Tajuddin al-Bahari arrived in Sudan after being invited by a Sudanese merchant known as Dawood ibn Abd Jalil. He came by an order from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abdul Qadir Jilani, may Allah be pleased with him. Al-Bahari settled in Al-Jazira in the center of Sudan in a place called Wadi Shair, where he started teaching his tariqah. The way in which he started initiating his followers was a peculiar one. It is said in Tabaqat that he put a number of sheep in a storeroom and told those who wanted to follow him that he would direct and guide them, but would instantly slaughter them so that they die rightful and true believers. The people were terrified by the idea and refused his offer of initiation, except of 2, that is Muhammad al-Hamim, Abdul Sadiq, and Sheikh Bannig al-Tarir. So after presenting the arrival of the Qadiriya Sufi order during Foreign Sultanate, just I would like here to point out to the arrival of the Shazaliya teaching. So the Shazaliya teaching was probably introduced into Sudan by Sheikh Hamad Abu Dannana. And Sheikh Hamad Abu Dannana, by the way, is son-in-law to the renowned scholar Sheikh Muhammad Sulaiman Abd Rahman al-Juzuli, the author of Dalail al-Khayrat, the most readable and widespread of fame authoring on the Prophet's seerah and Prophet blessing. However, Abu Dannana migrated to Sudan with his son Sayyid Ibn al-Hassan al-Piti and came to settle down in al-Mahmiya, an area that is located between Shandi and al-Damar, and from there he started preaching the Shaziliya as the second or as another important sanad that entered Sudan during French Sultanate. Prominent Sudanese Sufis had joined the Tariq, here the Shaziliya, and just here I would like to point out to the notable Sheikh, the well-famed, reputed Sheikh, my master Sheikh Khojali ibn Abdul Rahman, known as Sheikh Khojali Abu Jaz, in addition to Sheikh Majzoub al-Kabir of Al-Damar. So those two person emerged as the most outstanding figure in the dissemination of the Shaziliya Tariqa in Sudan. More information will be presented in our episode targeting the Sudanese major turuq in our coming recordings.